There we go.
Robin and Matt said they were gonna try to join us,
I don't see that.
but I sent them what I could, and I didn't know if it was actually the right thing or not.
I'll resend it to them.
Okay,
Go ahead and get started.
all right. Well, hello, strangers. Been a while. Um. Let's go ahead and call this here meeting to order. Our agenda today is pretty basic, unless someone has something that they would like to add to it. Basically, we're getting an update on the Office's House RFP, working with Barbara on the big picture vision for the property, and taking
That's
a,
not on the agenda today, is it? No.
I thought that it was on the agenda today.
Is that
Yeah.
part? Oh, that's part of the visioning.
Visioning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, on vision, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just kind of checking in to get our ducks in a row for the upcoming year. Figure out what it is we need to accomplish and give ourselves some charges for getting it done. Anybody have anything they want to add or change? Any comments from the invisible citizens? All right, regarding minutes, I don't think we have any. I absolutely cannot remember whether, what the situation was at our September meeting, whether we knew the recording wasn't happening and one of us agreed to take notes, or whether we thought things were being recorded and.
I thought that was your role. Is that correct?
It is, and I had checked to find out if recording was going to happen, because I was supposed to go to the airport to pick up my son. And I was told that the recording would be taken care of, even though Max wasn't here, but then they couldn't log in. So I thought it was happening, went to the airport, and then the recording didn't work. Because nobody could log in.
Okay. So we don't have minutes from the last meeting.
Correct.
Is there anything that we need to do about that?
I mean, minutes really aren't required for
Right,
this committee, so it can just be deferred if they.
It was recorded though, correct?
No. it was-
No.
it was
No.
not,
Not
right.
recorded.
No,
Trying to do it from memory right now might be a difficult task.
I mean, you can do a pretty broad strokes of what your agenda said and just whatever key takeaways you want to have, if there are any votes or. Yeah, Robin's on there.
Okay.
If there were any votes or any key action items you guys needed to have going forward.
I absolutely do not remember. Please speak up if your brain works better than mine.
Well, I think there was a lot of discussion about the Hoff's House request for proposals and the vote and the ballot question. I think that was at least half the meeting.
yeah, the hostage cells did take up a lot of time.
But I remember who said what.
Well,
That's the problem.
As I said,
Right, so we'll just
Let's roll.
Okay, let's
include
roll.
the agenda.
yeah, I would
And
just include the agenda and a note that.
Yeah.
There's no recording, there's no minutes, but no votes or action items were taken.
Was the last meeting September? 11th?
September 11th,
Yeah.
yes, it
Yeah.
was. All right, are we okay with this order, or Barbara, do you need to run someplace and want to get moved up?
I'm gonna just back up onto that. Meeting agenda, I was just looking at it.
Okay.
I think we did approve the minutes, that much we could say.
Okay, yeah, we approved
There were
actually
two sets.
2 minutes.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm not sure if there was anything else we voted on. Not that it matters.
Yeah, okay.
I have something to add to the agenda. There's gonna be a new member.
Oh. Anything else?
Okay, man named Michael Amico applied to be a member of this committee, and John Blodgett and myself interviewed him. Quite a smart guy. He's got a PhD in American history. And I guess you don't get to be a PhD with a little bit of intelligence and drive. And he expressed a desire to be involved with the community, number one, but also he was interested in diving into the history of the property and even to pre-Columbian times, perhaps. And so John and I recommended to the select board that he be named to the committee, and he was voted in.
His name again?
Michael Amico, Amico.
Valued for friend. Very nice name.
Right, if you have his email address and want to send it to me, then I will make sure that it's.
Okay, I will do that right now. I can send it to the group.
Okay. All right, Max, you wanna give us a rundown on what's up with the RFP?
So the RFP closed last Thursday at 3 p.m. and I only received one interested response from Damien Clarence Chapman. Unfortunately, this response was to dismantle the Hofstas house and salvage all of the usable materials in it. And I didn't receive a full response. I only received a email response, not even a full page. That seems like it was on the phone. I reached out to Michael Alderson to see who put in that request back in March. And he said that that request was for a specific buyer who has since moved on. However, he didn't realize that he could still put in a request if he wanted to. And I just talked with him right before this meeting. He'll probably send something specifically just for the barn. I told him it was fine. We only have the one response anyways. Unfortunately, the next step would just be seeing what the select board has to say, unless the committee wants to make a recommendation on it. Personally, this individual, Damian Chapman, didn't provide any information on insurance. He did provide 3 references, but the entire thing that he's put down has been dismantling and removing the property rather than relocating it like this original RFP intended. So I'm waiting to see what Michael Alderson's response is going to be. If he wants to move the barn for free, I make a suggestion to take that. But I wouldn't move anything on the Hofstas house, perhaps put out another RFP for demolition, and Damien can then make a response for that. Because again, I didn't get anything for relocation.
We had gotten 3 inquiries or 3 responses. The rumor.
That was the rumor, but people say they're interested when an RFP is out, but then the deadline comes along. And keep in mind, I reached out to anyone who did express interest, and then nothing happened. I can reach out to those people again that you mentioned.
Was this dismantling, was this at zero cost to the town, or was there revenue associated with it?
The relocating item,
Not relocating, but this
Chapman-
proposal that we
Chapman-
have, was there any money involved?
How about I just read the request since it's pretty much one paragraph. I am Damien Clarence Chapman, and I am proposing to dismantle the Hofstas house and salvage all usable materials. I have 30 years of experience and I'm fully insured. But again, I didn't get anything for that. I will offer to dismantle the Hofstas house in exchange for the materials contained therein, as long as the town of Waldeboro provides the asbestos removal and the dumpster along with disposal charges. On most house demolitions that I have done, all plaster and rejected brick have put in a cellar as fill, saving money on disposal as long as Department of Environmental Protection approves. All other debris goes in the dumpster. I will leave site all clean and free of debris, and then he provides his references.
So it was really for demolition, because all of the wood is going into a dumpster.
Or filling in the basement.
Or it may be
Well,
salvageable.
what was he salvaging?
Yeah.
If it wasn't the wood.
Anything that could, any usable materials.
And so, and we would have to remediate the asbestos before doing it.
Yes.
It is more, costing you, there's more than the asbestos removal and abatement. We have a tank basement requiring a disposal, certified disposal. And we have some other materials in the basement as well. There's cost associated with that. We just never determined it.
Well, and again, I'd have to run this by the DEP to see if this would even be considered.
Is there any possibility of extending the deadline of the RFP to?
It might be better to send out a second RFP. Yeah. But again, that's gonna be a decision, I'd say, for the select board to determine.
It's sent beyond the town website. I can't remember. That was a distributed RFP.
Unfortunately, Julie's not here to answer that part. It was on the town website. It was in the Lincoln County News, I believe. That's how Damien saw it.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly where else Julie has sent it. I think the RFP was being sent out in time I was on vacation. So,
Well, this is not a happy circumstance. I think we all had visions of that house being rebuilt somewhere else.
So honestly, this is sort of what I was expecting would be the response, unfortunately.
as I said, I reached out to Michael Alderson one more time. He does have interest in the barn and for the building itself. He said that there was just an interested buyer back in March.
Right.
You know, next week he might call me up and say he has another interested buyer and he'll take it. But
So the results of the election authorized us to sell it and or to demolish it, is that correct?
Yes.
So our choice is to extend the deadline one more time and see, and maybe make a decision that if there's no nibbles or whatever, we the demolition option. Right? I mean, what else? I just feel like the longer it stands, the better it's gonna be.
At any point, does our exposure to costs change as a result of the passage of time? To wit, asbestos siding, asbestos content material, vinyl asbestos tile, the oil tank in the basement, the household hazardous waste. Does anything change as a result of the passage of time for our costs?
Did you have anything in mind about the specific inflation, deterioration?
I think just labor
Exactly,
costs
all of the
going up.
above.
Okay.
I think
Well,
it's-
disposal, I know for a fact will not go down.
Probably nothing will go down.
Fees are going up.
Um,
Fees are going up.
I think it's a matter of the labor cost and actually finding someone in a decent timeline. I think that was what we were talking about with this RFP when it was going out. Some people would be looking at the summer, maybe even later than that, because a lot of them are already selecting their projects. So even if we do another RFP, we wait and then the RFP would have, for just relocating. Gotta love the spam calls. So even if we do another relocating RFP and extend it to February or March and get no response at that point, then go out for a demolition RFP. Then the demolition crews probably wouldn't get to start till fall, maybe. Even this individual, I think they said they wouldn't even start till late spring.
Was it advertised in some of these, restoration old house kind of, interest groups?
I wasn't responsible for the thing. I'd have to ask Julie. And she's taking care of her another granddaughter that just was born.
So where was the notice put out? You don't know,
I was not responsible for that.
because there are people who move things from one state to another because they do this kind of thing. I mean, if I haven't seen the building inside, I don't know how it's valuable it might be, but just wondering if the word was put out for a wider area.
We can do another RFP and we can go to the ones you're looking at. I think we were focusing on just main focused individuals in this area, but if it's an out-of-state company that might be able to do it.
No, I mean, like, even Facebook, groups.
Right.
Old building restorer people.
It's a universe.
I mean, would someone like Les
Yeah.
Fossil have ideas or, someone like that of how to distribute it? I mean, if we're gonna do it again, it feels like we should try to just
Put it in
advertise
those
it widely,
right,
in the trade. People that are in that field. And it sounds like it doesn't hurt to extend it for 3 months because we don't have another plan at the moment, right?
And the act of rewriting the RFP is basically changing a couple of dates, right? We don't need to change the body of the RFP.
And that would give this person Chapman, tell him we have extended it if you are serious it's
Right.
to complete a full proposal or something, so we have.
It'd be nice if there was some outreach to some real estate agents who
Yeah, I
might
was
know
thinking
people.
Two.
I mean, my impression is that there was an attempt made to advertise it, but it doesn't sound to me like it was very extensive.
Again,
I know,
you'd have to talk to Julie
I
about
know.
that, Bob.
no, I get it, but the impression I'm getting is that it wasn't a very extensive effort.
I heard Les Fossil's name mentioned, and it certainly would be useful to speak to him about how to reach to larger audiences.
I can certainly do that.
Or maybe even him seeing what the proposal was, and just thinks. Interest.
I know a guy up in Grand Isle who does this kind of stuff. And I'll ask him if he has a network of guys that he knows.
The Maine Preservation Group also has quite a network. Maybe we just make a list of those places and
Pass it on.
broadcast it as best we can.
To ask, but can you advertise houses on eBay? Why not?
Yeah.
You can pretty much advertise anything you want.
Yeah,
Betting
there's
is
a bunch
could
of
be-
Facebook pages that you can go on.
Marketplace, is that one of them? I don't
There's
do
old
that.
houses in Maine.
Yes, yeah.
The places that Barbara was mentioning.
Yeah.
There's a group for everything
There
and there's
is,
probably duplicates of them.
There's also a historic house website. I can't remember the name of it, that everybody who's interested in houses knows and checks for great deals on crumbling properties. I don't know how you get onto it. I can find out.
I've noticed there's been a couple places that people are taking down old barns.
Yeah.
And actually one of my neighbors, and it might be worth stopping, talking, see what's going on. If they bought the building or if it's
At this
in
point,
kind,
take it away
or,
for nothing.
or is it in kind and take it away?
Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes those old houses have some, crown molding and stuff, but I have no idea. Never
You would
been in.
think that slate, roofing slate would have some value, for people in Beacon Hill in Massachusetts,
Well,
they lose some slates and
Yep.
they need, you would think that has value.
There is a market for that stuff. Usually salvage companies that are.
And that's
That's what
what
I-
this individual is looking at.
Yeah. he's gonna resell everything.
So it sounds like it might be useful for us as a committee to put some elbow grease into figuring out where we need to do that marketing and outreach, maybe as a little ad hoc subcommittee, just to make sure that we put things together. Would that be useful?
Just send like a group email and, you know, we can all kind of do a little hunting and then respond to that email with a list of whatever things we have, thoughts we have on it, and then we can compile it. There'll probably be duplicates, but file target.
Is this,
The places to.
are you thinking do it at the next meeting or snag a couple people to do it?
We would have it done by then. Oh, sorry.
I wasn't sure. Yeah.
So I take it the recommendation this committee is giving to the select board when this goes to them is to do a second
Just to do a
RFP.
second RFP.
And
Yes.
request for a full proposal from this person. Which you already tried, right?
So what's the timing on something like that, Max? Like if it takes us till the next meeting to have a compiled list, would the select board have already decided on this proposal by then? Request for proposal?
Our next meeting's on the 28th. I don't think it won't be on the agenda for that meeting. Could be on the agenda of the first meeting in December.
And that would just be
Or
to,
we could add it to the agenda of the meeting of the.
We could
28th.
add it, yeah. During the meeting itself, yeah.
just to approve the
Just to,
Recommend one more running.
yeah,
rethink.
and
Yeah.
do a little more outreach to people who
Okay.
might be interested.
You know. I think we have to leave some things more flexible than we left in the first RFP. One of which was end dates, and we had a lot of discussion about that. We want to be as accommodating to whoever wants to take this at the most advantageous
I believe that's,
way to the town, and leave that up to them.
thought that's what happened. I thought that was
Well,
what happened
I think
after
it still had an end date, but with a disclaimer
that you can have
that
requests.
we would, yeah,
Yes.
but let's
It was
make it
pretty
as
tight.
open as possible. Yeah.
So if the goal is to get it out in January again, if you approve it. And just have maybe a more running deadline or something. I mean, we could ask for proposals within X months.
A proposal
But
due
not-
date, but not a.
But
not
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 a-
a
not
day
a
move
have
the
it
vote
done
to
yet.
You could just say, we will
Right.
work with you on
Right.
that, but,
Ask-
or
yeah.
preferably
Ask
within
what
this
their
year.
proposed completion date is.
But we could maybe say something like preferably within the 2024 calendar year or something.
But I
but
think if we
not
just
hard
flip
and
the
fast.
language and put the flexibility up front and the request after, rather than making it seem like we're really anxious to have things done, but would consider drawing it out, that might be helpful.
Yeah, one of our concerns was that it be done in the wintertime when the ground is solid. And we were hoping somebody would jump at it and do it then.
Are there good photos of the building? Interior and the barn, are there good photos?
We have photos.
Say good.
They're
We can-
relatively-
yeah,
Describe good photos.
It's not complimentary necessarily.
It's not,
There's,
it's not a beautiful site.
it's pretty full of stuff.
Yeah.
Would a
some of
realtor
the
visit-
details, some of the.
I don't know.
Some of
We need to
the
ask.
Stuff
We might.
was removed
Again,
prior
that's-
to
Just
Last real free is.
Just as a
an
favor.
some point
List this
of
as a
us
favor to.
getting access to it, but
Here are the
like the
terms and
railing to
conditions.
the stairway and the banisters are gone.
The folks at Lash, when we brought them out, were not dreadfully excited about the house.
Ravis might do it.
There were other realtors that were. Newcastle was much more interested in.
If you're looking for a residential buyer versus somebody who's interested in the, right, like the building structure. That's different than like the normal.
I would also just say, maybe the response to the RFP is the better way to, I know we want to try and have this go to someone, but for the real estate, I am worried that's going to lead to someone just a lot of people wanting to look at it, but we have to run whoever's going to potentially buy it to the DEP someone who's responsible enough to actually handle all this stuff with a lot of good references. If a couple just looks at it and wants to buy it, but they don't have a plan, if they don't have, who is it, Michael Alderson or Les Fossil or whoever ready to help move it, then we might be, I don't want to say wasting time on it, but we're spending time on someone who probably DP won't approve. So that's why I'd kind of like to still have the RFP if that's what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the realtor should know that right up front. Talk to Les, and I'm assuming hopefully he anyway has dealt with this kind of thing. Yeah.
He was at one point interested. Well, didn't he? He did, yeah. So what we need is a motion to send a recommendation forward to the select board to issue the RFP.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All
I'm abstaining. Because I'm gonna have another bite at the apple on this one.
You always say that for everyone,
Well,
the exact
no.
words.
opposed?
Quotable quotes.
Sorry.
Quotable quotes.
Robin and Matt online, did you two have a vote on this?
Yes, sweet, sounds good.
Right? Okay. Let's do that tally. Just a reminder for what will happen. I'm presenting this request to the select board and we're gonna note the recommendation of the Sylvania Committee is made.
For which, the select meeting.
Right, to do it on the 28th.
Yeah.
That's soon, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next thing we have is time to work with Barbara to think about what's gonna be on this property.
Yeah, I wasn't really prepared to. I'm still gathering some stuff. I met with Morgan. We talked about the trail issues and I think Max, you had come up with a trail plan. Zigzag, kind of very loosely.
Oh, yeah, that was, I don't know which map you're talking about. There's one where I had like a GPS that looked around it and then there was one where it's kind of loosey goosey.
She kind of field tested it this weekend and has sent a long report this afternoon. So anyway, we'll want to incorporate some of her thoughts into the master plan, and she's very excited about getting the trail work started. I think the question for her is where the trailhead, where it starts, and there are a couple ideas about that floating around. I was gonna call you Mark, is it Mark? Marcus. It's wrong, so Marcus, too, just about the courts and what he's looking for there too, so basically pulling some stuff together. I really hope that, so are you meeting next month? Or?
We haven't decided. Would it be helpful to you if we met next month?
Well, nothing like a deadline.
Yeah.
So the regular scheduled meeting would be December 4th.
Yeah.
That's right around the corner.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Right.
that's right around the corner and
Would that work for you or is that too soon?
Literally right around the
It
corner.
is.
that's 2 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks away.
We
Right.
normally meet, we just put this
Right.
one off so far.
And for December, I would assume if we need to meet, it might be the 18th because literally 2 weeks after that will be Christmas and then New Year's. And I assume we're not going to meet for those days. And then there's January 8th, right before Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 15th. We're going to have a lot of messy moving around.
4th is too soon for me.
Yeah.
Does the 11th or 18th work for anybody?
December 18th.
11th or 18th? Or we could wait
So
till
what's
January.
wrong with the 4th? Are we
The
casting that
4th
aside?
is just too soon. It's 2 weeks away.
Barbara.
Oh, too soon for you.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I mean, other than the RFP, there's really, I think the RFP and the visioning is the only two things on the agenda unless there's anything people can think of right now.
But if you guys want to meet on the 4th on this whole RFP business or something like that, I can come in January. Is it, so is it normally the first Monday of the month?
I would propose that would be our next meeting, and that'll be a key agenda item other than updates.
In the RFP update, would just show the possible new dates and then if anyone has some,
Distribute.
yeah, distribution list. That's really the only thing that the RFP meeting would be about. And then the vote to send out the RFP.
That pushing it too far down for you?
What were you talking about?
The
Which
first Monday of January, or second Monday, I guess it would be, this the first, this January 1st.
Monday's the 1st of January. That'd be fine with me.
Well,
Be the 8th, so.
Well,
Get the year off to a good start.
yeah, I could say.
The Elvis will feel, Max has a key.
Yeah, that,
But you'll probably party the night before us, so you won't want to come in here on first.
I'm already here too much. You think I want to be here on my day off?
yeah, yeah. So why don't we say the 8th?
We just
Say
want.
what?
Wait. Yeah, let's back up. December.
Yeah.
On the RFP, if you guys vote on that and it gets approved, then meeting on December 4th makes sense to do a quick
it does.
vote. We're out of
Yeah.
here
Yep,
until January.
we've done our homework on who we get it to and
Yeah, then we could
I see what you're
actually
saying.
be working on getting
Yeah.
that out.
The
before
RF
January.
Yeah, the Sylvania Committee can meet on December 4th or December 11th for the RFP, so that then they can make the select board December 12th meeting to send out the thing.
Barbara, is December 11th also too early?
That's a week after the 4th. Yeah, I can probably make that work.
We moved our rec committee meeting till that night, but it's at 6, so as long as,
oh, we should be okay.
yeah, so Jim and I will be
Okay.
here at 6 anyways.
Okay, so meet on the 11th and we can do both.
4:30?
Thanks. Bunch of
Love stacking
bundle,
meetings.
bundle. All right, so we're gonna do the 4th.
It just means you don't have to
You
do
just
this
do the
meeting
11th.
on the 4th and then the rec on the 11th.
Yeah,
Feel like-
no, that's what I'm saying. I love stacking meetings. It's perfect.
yeah, bundle.
Less nights I have to stay here.
Bundle. Right, great.
Barbara, is there anything that you need from us
I don't think so.
to make
I've
that
got-
productive?
I've got a file of- And, but who's gonna take on the, if you have suggestions about where this notice should go, the RFP or the notice about the sale of buildings, should
I
go to
should-
your office?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that, since I doubt I'm gonna go on vacation until December 25th.
Oh, no.
Well, no, I'm taking that last week off of December. It's a natural one. Send me wherever you would like this RFP to be sent, and then I could just make sure that's sent out with the RFP on December 14th.
Does the town have a Facebook page, or would we just be putting it on, sort of through the Waldoboro pages
The town does have a Facebook page, to the surprise of many people.
that we can?
Rebecca just does a better job with maintaining hers.
Yes, she does.
Is the business association still active in Waldoboro?
Newly
Yeah.
refounded.
Revitalized.
That would be good too.
Recharging, yeah.
Okay.
They have monthly events.
Oh, good.
Well, we're on the topic of meetings, if you don't mind me asking. So December 11th at 4:30. Hopefully that'll be the RFP and perhaps this
Get the RFP.
vision. For January, I assume we will not meet on the 1st. I assume we do not want to meet on the 15th, since both of those are holidays. I think the town office is closed on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
I think so.
So the 8th and the 22nd would be possible times, but again, I don't really have any items other than visioning in the Hofs's house RFP, but those would still be in the works.
Well, since the next thing we're going to do is look at the timeline and things that we need to do, perhaps we can talk about the next meeting after we do that and see if there's something needs to be addressed.
Right.
Okay.
If we can settle on a date for January.
We were just saying we would wait, although we could tentatively hold the 8th unless that's an issue, and after our next 11th meeting, if we feel like we don't need it, we could
can-
wait.
Okay, I'll wait for Blanca.
So January 8th tentatively.
That's what I'd recommend. but Following up on Barbara's
Mhm.
visioning.
Yeah, I prefer just to keep it toward the beginning of the month,
Yeah.
just because when we do what we're doing right now. it's just things. Great. Barbara, anything else that?
I am, still thinking, this pavilion is a little vague. What we wanna do pavilion wise, what size it needs to be, or. How many people we really wanna get out of the rain and in the pavilion, if it's for farmers market, then. Well, anyway, it's the pavilion part is a little vague, what we wanna have happen in there, therefore how big it needs to be. Seems to me, a building like that is a great place to do the solar installation part of things. On the roof, yeah. But that immediately forces it certain places on the property.
Orientation.
Yeah. So anyway. We'll, I guess I'll have like a couple of ideas about that, and then you guys decide which direction you wanna go with it. I know you'd like to have maybe the ice skating rink inside the pavilion.
Yeah,
Then
I mean,
30 by 60, and but that's not a huge, that's 1,800 square feet, that's not a huge.
Yeah.
You know,
That's how big our ice rink is out back, and I know when we talked about it, the benefit is it's under a roof. The
Mhm.
negatives are it's over at Sylvania.
Mhm.
And I'd have to get the fire department to help me fill it and clean it, whereas here I have access to water all
Yeah.
the time, and it's pretty easy to take care of here as opposed to. I'm
and
headed
when it
over to
gets
Gray.
super big, and then it gets to be kind of big cabinet, I mean, roller skating or something like that, little bit cavernous, what's, it starts looking industrial, so, anyway, so those are questions I have about what the nature of the pavilion is. It's, just the warm season roof, does it have enclosure, does it have, what's it for?
Does it make sense to play pickleball and tennis under a roof?
No,
I don't think so.
not something as short as that.
The reverberation would be great.
a drain, correct?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't.
Not if we
dampen
set
the
it,
sound of it.
not if I just set the rink I have inside of it, it would just flood out.
Well, I was thinking that, one of the things that we had talked about was what was it, a spray pad?
Splash pads.
Splash pad, yeah.
Yeah.
But that you wouldn't want that,
Sun.
want that under a
Right.
roof,
You'd
you'd want
want
that
that-
out in the
right.
sun,
Yeah.
forget it.
Right.
Well, and Barbara, if you have any other thoughts like that, you want us to think about before December 11th, we, at least, we're not
Yeah.
sitting here brainstorming, we can. do
Yeah,
some
maybe I'll
thinking.
send Max an email with a couple of questions. and
That
see
might be good to
if
share
that's what
before
he's
the
on.
meeting, yeah.
I mean, because we could design a big thing that's for X amount of solar too, and we could sort of take it that way and then figure out how it's gonna get used later. Basically a pipe structure. The solar's doing a supplemental roof, the solar's doing a lot of the closure of the shade, whatnot, and shade's probably gonna be increasingly important in public
Yep.
gatherings too, so.
So it would basically be the shape of a lean-to.
Kind of, could be,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the simplest thing. Yeah. I'll send some questions along.
So one thing I did remember from last meeting, and you asked me to go back and take a look at what we had done and what we had left to do on our original draft kind of sort of timeline. And I thought since it is the end of the year, it might be a good time to come back to this and try to set some realistic goals for what we could get done, what we want to try to get done, and where we want to be by the end of this coming year. So the things that are in green are things that we did, which that's pretty big. We did all right. We did the consultations that we said we were going to do. We have dealt, at least theoretically, with the Hofs's house. And have a structure in place for trying to move forward there. And so really, I think where we are is doing our picture for our site proposal, basically, and getting feedback from both DEP and the community on that. If we want to stick with the ideas that we had in place, everything is changeable. And then starting to timetable out bits of the work. I mean, that's what we got. That is way more than 1 year's worth of work. I don't know.
Can I ask a question? Are you gonna get, looking for community feedback before you get the cap plan initiated? The cap engineered and whatnot, or is the cap regardless?
I think the plan was to cap the site regardless, and having what you're doing was going to be incorporated with it.
My understanding is that our work product, when you're looking at pulling together, is going to be submitted to the engineer. And he will formalize it.
Yep.
But
So
that would
In
be
that case,
after
though,
the
in that
community-
case, it probably should have community input before we have
Yeah.
it done.
Well, the reason why I ask is because I don't know whether the chicken and the egg here. In order to get input from the community, we really have to put something in front of them. And that's sort of the purpose of the engineer. And ours is just gonna be a proposal. But if we jump the gun and put something out, let's be frank, I'm an amateur at this. If it looks amateurish, we're not gonna get any feedback, or we're gonna get negative feedback. So should we go to the engineer with our suggestions first, and then have nice drawings, et cetera, for the people to evaluate? Or do we want to go with handwritten sketches, back of the neck? And I don't know the answer to that question.
I think you've answered it.
well,
Well, I think there might be a third alternative, right?
I'd like
Yeah.
some clarification, because
Yeah.
when we talked about the engineering study initially, the engine, that's who we met with, right? Pine.
pine tree.
And they said, we want to see what you want to do, and they're just gonna cap it, and we realized we need someone like you with expertise to
Right.
come up. So the engineer's not the one who's gonna draw,
Right.
this is where I think this should go. They're just
Yeah.
gonna figure out what type of pad we're gonna need to accommodate the uses. So I feel like what you're doing, and hopefully maybe we take it a step farther and either hire someone to draw some things out.
Does anybody know anybody with CAD experience, like graphical experience, that could put together
Drawings.
something that looks nice, I guess?
I don't do CAD.
Like Patty had her
I
hand
think
up too.
nice.
Okay, all right.
But
But-
the engineer does not have a landscape architect.
No,
staff.
that's
Yeah.
not
They
their
do not do that.
Right,
I made it very clear.
right.
Yeah.
You just
So-
need to know where to put the drainage.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
first
that's
step
right.
is this, and then we
Right.
say, bring that to the engineer and say, this, accommodate that with whatever the cap's going.
Patty, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm wondering what needs to be done on CAD. I do have CAD experience, but it depends on to what level. I'm not an engineer, so.
Well, Barbara, you do. Are we allowed to hire you?
Well, I don't,
Oh, you
I
don't?
don't do CAD.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. I thought
I,
you did.
I do know someone who is good at CAD, but has
mean, I-
no landscape knowledge at all.
Yeah, it's the
But I'm not
landscape
sure
piece
if
I
a
don't
CAD
do.
drawing is gonna get the public excited about anything. Like, they can be pretty dry looking.
Yeah.
But, no.
Well, I'm not talking about engineering drawings, but a pictorial of
Yeah,
some sort.
right.
Here's where this is going. This is gonna be
Right,
this is gonna be a pavilion, this is gonna be a splash pad, you know,
well,
and
that's
just.
what I planned on.
That's
doing.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
if-
Okay, so yeah,
So that would
Speaking
be,
from personal experience, Barbara is very capable of doing that.
all right,
Okay.
check.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what we really need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, and it is sort of conceptual, because there's a little wiggle room as you go to play, but the cap is the cap. As far as that's why I'm wondering, seems like these two things can happen parallel.
right.
Well, one of the reasons we haven't had the engineer doing any of the work is because the committee wanted to wait until Barbara was all done with
Yes.
this.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, so once we meet in December, then we can talk about
The time.
the cap.
Okay.
Moving along, that kind of thing, I would think, because, I mean, what's the public gonna say? No, I'd rather enter the path from this side of the parking lot versus this. It's not gonna affect the cap anyway.
I think what the community is likely going to want to weigh in on are the features of what's there. And that could influence.
What the features are.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, the cap
Don't
is
we have
down.
to cap a certain parts of it anyway? The old foundation, that's
Well, the parking area,
the parking.
whether it's permeable, you know,
Right.
those kinds of decisions, if the whole thing's just gonna be capped in one way or another, whether it's bent height or grass.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised. Your engineer is going to disclose to you that there are assets in place which are impediments to the surface flow that will need to be removed and or excluded from a viable cap such that subsurface drainage is normal and reasonable to maintain any sort of grass or not, where you don't want it. So it's a complex site.
Yeah,
And even for Barbara's some of those vertical impediments are also assets that could be exploited as foundations for structures that needed a foundation and a slab on grade or could host other sports. So it is more complex. It's certainly a lot more complex than anything I ever dealt with, believe me. So Barbara's work product is going to be essential with instruction for this committee to Pine Tree.
thank you, Barbara.
See what you
Are
got
you,
yourself
are you
into?
expecting that DEP is going to want to weigh in on the vision?
Missing what you're saying.
Or are they already on board with everything?
they've been on board with the idea of recreation. I think everyone's been on board with the idea of
Right.
recreation. When Barbara does have a plan, we'll send it to DEP to make sure that we're not angry with tennis courts and pickleball courts. Basketball, maybe they're a bit on the edge, but
Who can't play?
yeah,
Suppose there was no park plan, would the town just go ahead with capping? And cap it?
Yep.
Next year, anyway?
And then
Is there funding
we'd
for
have to
that?
work with whatever.
We'd
we
have
had.
to get grants for that.
There's no funding.
well, there was our, yeah. I mean, the town already voted last November to approve the study to do the cap. And yeah, we would have to get some grant funding for that, but that's what we're hoping to get the engineering study to give us an indication on.
What it's gonna cost.
You did a conceptual
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
When you first put it up to DEP for them to look at it and to Ledvance to make sure they knew what we were thinking about.
Yep.
So that's out there.
And they signed out with everything, signed up on everything, right?
They pretty much
But
did.
now we're refining. that.
Yeah.
So
I was quite fond of his product, actually.
Did you send me that, Max?
I have no idea what I've sent anyone in the last year. I can send that to you.
I'll get a question for you. There are some areas that I call highly crippled, either by topography or the odd location. Some of them have a lot of invasives in it, some of them just, fallow, crappy, crippled places. I would have a real interest in seeing some sort of a community pollinator garden meadow demonstration. So that obviously, if something, an idea like that would be something I'm very fond of. Yeah, scratch around the dirt, you do some things, amend the soil, turn it over a little bit. How much of that is problematic?
It's supposed to disturb
I
the.
feel we've had to talk about the invasive plants already, and whether that had to be allowed or not. I don't remember how that conversation went, though.
The covenant says no soil disturbance without DEP approval, but I would think. Planting is probably, I mean, again, that's why we go to DEP with, because we actually talked about pollinator garden.
You did.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of things on a list that you probably have not seen that we.
Yeah,
I
think we just have to have someone out there to make sure that it's not where someone secretly buried anything, but unless it says proves otherwise, you should be able to do it.
Possibly out by, say, where Hoff's house was.
I mean, there are lots of little as I call them, crippled locations. It's actually the land use term is crippled, but in this case, just crappy little spots.
Yeah.
10,000 square feet at a time that could be very nice places where community volunteers would love to be engaged. I think seeing, the native flowering host plants and foraging plants for pollinators. It'd be a nice place to demonstrate.
Do you happen to already have like a mark or an idea for where each of these spots would be?
I walked a couple of locations. I thought, boy, what are we going to do with this thing? And that's what came to mind.
Yeah. Whether we walk it together or if you take some pictures and can mark it on the map, then I can send those to DEP to check.
Okay.
Or we can wait till.
Well, they could be part of Barbara's
Wait till
plan.
we.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Raising culture, putting, using limbs and stuff and actually building up, so not scratching up the soil.
Right on top of, I manage a little, in addition to my invasive species work with the sheepskin and the sheepskin watershed. I've maintained I've been progressively maintaining this little 3/8 of an acre meadow. And this year, and I've been cataloging all the species I've found there. This year, we've had our first federally listed endangered species, the rusty patch bumblebee. Showed up in this little spot. Which is just, it's like the tiniest little victory imaginable, but boy, what a validation something like that is. And folks really do like flowering plants, like the idea of butterfly gardens, but a meadow that people could be involved, a couple of meadows that people could be involved with and adopt for that purpose. I think there'd just be a lot of fun to do.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it seems like we should wait to ask GP till we have all the.
Right.
Everything sort of on the table, because there may be more than that. That's the only reason. Let's go to the next meeting and see what happens.
So we have to ask where we can scratch the soil, or can they already tell us where we can't scratch the soil?
There's the restricted area where it's going to be a lot tougher to do it, and then there's the rest of the parcel. That's
And
why I
your
was like,
map,
still
your
would-
diagram shows the restricted and unrestricted areas.
pretty much. That's why,
But
regardless,
have to ask
yes,
just outside of the restricted area?
yeah. That's why I suggested.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me. It can be on
Yeah.
Barbara's plan, but Carl's just getting the site that he's suggesting,
Absolutely.
so that we know if it's in the restricted area or not. What was that? Did anyone else hear that?
Yeah.
The wall over there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I suggest we use the honest to God survey maps when we figure this out, because yours was based on that, but it's not to scale.
Well, he wants to also make sure that there's the well test sites on there as well,
Yes,
so.
which is on
Yeah.
the survey map, so. Which you have, right? I think I
Yeah.
said.
Well, if what Barbara's suggesting is that there's alternative ways that we don't have to disturb the soil, maybe we just do that anyway.
Yeah, I would even think the town dump would be interested. I mean, people want to get rid of branches and that type of thing too. So it could be a collection site for a while for, culture.
For mulch,
Very good idea.
Yeah,
compost and stuff.
yeah, basically you're laying it on the
Just
ground and
logs,
you're
yeah.
throwing on leaves and goat poop or whatever, and then in a couple of years, you know, a lot of things, natives especially, will take off.
I got one going in 1 year.
The goat.
The goat poo, even without goat poo.
Me too.
Maggie.
My first tubal bed produced beautiful squash this year, so just from logs lying around in my yard.
But if there's specific places that you think would be good to locate them, can you map them?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay. And I made the note to do that and provide it.
Yeah, certainly DEP can't object to our
Yeah.
building the soil up.
Right.
We're
No,
not digging it.
Yeah, we should be doing that.
right. It's also a really nice way to route a walk,
Yeah.
to have something high above.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what do we think we are going to have, at the end of our meeting in next month? Or just to help me think about time going forward. What do you think? What do you think we're going to walk out of our next meeting
Would you like us to
with?
walk
What
out?
would you like us to walk out of our next meeting with?
With,
Yes.
I don't know, at the next meeting, you're gonna review, a potential plan. With a couple areas might have a second, you know, an overlay that you can show it a slightly different way. And you'll see if you like it, if you wanna move forward with the community meetings or whatever you wanna do. There's a lot of things are kind of like fixed, which is not, there's a ton of, it's not a tabula rasa for sure. So anyway, I present it, you guys review it, get some feedback, and if I need to make a revision, then we'll make a revision. Is that what you're asking me? What are you asking?
Yeah,
me?
okay. What's about how long do you think it would take before we had a picture?
I
that
thought
we
we was
could-
doing it December 11th.
Yeah,
You
not
think-
until we discuss that, when we
Yeah.
have the picture, it's just.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
of
step.
That was
course.
just decided,
Yeah,
December 11th.
'cause she's gonna bring a general plan, we're gonna. So you're thinking then, how long till we go from there to?
How long do we need before we can have something that's presentable to the committee?
Depends if you guys like it or not.
I don't think we can say
Might have
that.
it December 11th, or I have to make some revisions.
Mhm.
For, you know, in the following week, so. By the January meeting, for sure. Not sooner.
One thing,
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
one thing that's frustrating me is that bent night is a cap is, it's fairly expensive. And as you point out, it's impervious. And then if you try and grow something on top of it, you gotta add topsoil on top of that. One thing that is really, really frustrating to me is that DEP will not let us demolish, and I think you were hinting at this too,
Yes.
even the worthless asphalt, which is as permeable can be, because it's cracked so badly, it just runs down through the cracks in the asphalt right now. Why we couldn't bring a planer in there, plane it, leave it in place, but then you could add mixed soil on top of that. And bentonite has been on the top of the list forever, but it is very expensive, and it does impede some of the things that we want to do. Do we want to go back to DEP and say, look, we want to make the soil completely pervious instead of impervious? Would they buy into that?
Probably worth
That's
a
a
try.
technical,
Well,
that's a really
originally-
technical question.
And originally they said you can't disturb the cap at all, remember, including recapping it.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe they would be willing to consider other alternatives if we put them out like that, you know.
Certainly,
But
the expense issue is just huge for anything that we're doing here.
So you could really-
We were talking about grading too, and the amount of soil that would have to be brought in to get an acceptable grade there.
I mean,
This is a real obstacle to doing anything that the voters are gonna accept, because it's just gonna be too costly.
We need RECRA money or whatever's out there. I mean, if there's such a thing, we
You know,
need
if we
big
could, if
grant.
we could get rec for money, that's fine, but I don't see that happening.
So it has
Ooh,
already been.
could we bring-
To cap it.
Was it, what was it, Max or Matt Lewis?
Max
What-
Lewick.
Max Lewis, would he be willing to come in and talk to us again?
He's been pretty clear with Julie and I that he likes the current chain where it is, where Julie and I will talk to him. There's the one point of contact
Okay,
in the town office. If you do have questions, we will talk with him and he will respond to it.
So the last time you guys spoke with him, wasn't there also a conversation about them helping us locate a significant pot of funding for doing this work?
Julia talked about.
Yes.
That
Again, what
Julie
we
was
just-
here at that meeting, that I have no idea.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have this money for the engineering plan and we kind of. I feel like we can't let the ultimate expense stop us from doing these pieces.
Right.
And then once we have a number, or maybe a range of numbers, then we just go from there.
There's nothing that says we can't draft a letter for Julie's signature asking these questions in writing and have it come from her.
I'll take that on. I'm writing a draft letter. It's very appropriate.
Why would the DEP allow us to make it areas permeable at this point?
Because it already is. There's nothing restricting rainwater from going down through the soil there.
Right, so that might be a problem.
Most definitely in the
That's a-
paved areas,
Yeah.
especially the paved areas way in back. I mean, that stuff is trash.
Right.
And even the concrete, it's going down through the cracks between the
Trees are gone.
between the slabs.
the language of the covenant isn't what I would have expected it to say, which is that it simply talks about disturbance, prohibition, disturbance, and so on. Doesn't refer to changing the hydrograph of the site. Doesn't suggest you can't make something more impermeable or less impermeable. It simply says you can't disturb the soil. It's sort of a dunderheaded language. It's not engineering friendly language, which is why we need to ask these questions.
Yeah, they've already agreed that we can put a cap on that slab.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it's bentonite or topsoil or whatever the heck it is,
Well, you're right. Do we have to put bentonite down or can it be ordinary fill?
I don't think,
Like, if you want to draft that, then hopefully I'll talk with Julie tomorrow, if she's in.
Yeah, these are certainly things Pine Tree will want to have out of the way,
Yeah.
yeah,
so they don't have to speculate.
good point.
I'm gonna suggest we table the rest of the timeline conversation until after we've had a chance to look about what. Anyone object?
Because they decided to really buy it, would be responsible for all of the content. So all those things people decide are just sitting.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to be talking about tonight, or can we call it an evening? Yeah.
Do we need to give Barbara some parameters on like the pavilion? Roughly?
Yeah, I thought I'd sent some questions along, but, and then depending what people say, then the building might become a certain size.
So you're gonna send that out
Yeah,
fairly soon?
yeah.
Okay,
So you're gonna send it to Max and she'll send it out. Is that what you want to do?
I mean, in a way, you don't want to take up too much space because you need a lot of space for the the parade for Waldeboro Day to.
It's a fact.
Yeah, 150 years from now, right? Yeah. Hope it doesn't rain.
You wanna work on your speech?
Oh, yeah.
In German.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.